Today, we're going to explore using a Chinese ink and wash brush for creating paintings that use brush strokes as shapes. Let's start and I'll show you how. First, we'll need a brush like this, some water, and we're going to use black tempera cake rather than a traditional ink cake. We're going to use the black tempera cake because it doesn't tend to stain and it works well in our environment. I'm going to get my brush wet and I'm going to start with a nice watery brush so the ink or paint is fairly light. I'm going to start by using the brush to make some flower petals. I'm going to start with placing the tip down and then pressing the whole brush down, and then I'm going to repeat, placing the tip always as the center part of the flower in this case. I can do the reverse and make a flower where the point is on the inside and the heel of the brush is on the outside. Every brush mark will have its own qualities and its own personality. And what to use can depend on what you want. One thing that helps is to try things out and explore what kind of marks the brush can make. This is a little different than some of the painting we may have done in the past, where we were using a brush and paint to just fill in shapes. Here, the brush actually makes the shapes. I'm going to put some little dots in the middle to represent the center of the flower, where the little seeds would be. I'm going to hold my brush down close to get more control, and I want to make sure that it comes to a nice point. Right now there's a little something sticking off, and I want to make sure it comes to a nice point. Holding it closer to the tip, or closer to the brush end, gives me more control. Holding it farther up gives me sort of a looser feel. For stems, I'm going to start with a point close to, but maybe not quite touching the petals or in between the petals. I come down and I'm going to press more so the stem gets thicker as it goes down towards the ground. I'll do something similar for the leaves. I'm going to make long strap-shaped leaves or sword-shaped leaves. So I'm going to go down to the base, and then I want my leaf to have a little bend in it. So I go up to where the leaf started. So it goes up to a point and then wider and down. But notice I kept it very light over in here. Let me try that one again. I'm going to come here. I'm going to go down. And then to get that little extra turn of the leaf, I'll press up. Whoops, I think I could even fit another little turn in there. There, ooh, I like the sense of twisting in space that I got in that one. I'm going to lighten my brush. A lot of it, remember, you're always better off starting light and then going dark. If you're not sure, go over to the side and maybe on a scrap paper or just a corner, try a little extra just to see how dark your paint is or your ink is. And again, I'm using this as if it were ink, but it's actually tempera cake. Now I'm going to get a little extra paint, and my brush is, I didn't get any more water, I just got some more paint on it. I'm going to put a few little lines going along the petals of this one. See how that looks. Notice I'm holding it close to the brush end to get extra control. Ooh, I wish I could get just a little finer. There's other things I could try with this. I'm going to get a very light roll. Notice how I roll the brush. I'm going to get petals that are very wide at the end. My water is getting gray enough that for a very pale gray, I don't even need to add any extra paint to my brush. I'm going to go gather a little more color. And I'm just going to let it spread out from the edge of the petal, just rolling my brush along, and it can spread towards the center of the flower. I'm going to get a little extra paint on so I can get some little dots in the middle. Notice I'm holding it down close to the brush at this point because I want a little more control. I'm also balancing my finger right on the paper where it's still clean and dry. And just make a whole nice area of brush dots. You can even call them dots if that helps you better rather than strokes. Well, there's some things for flowers. You can also try other marks. You never know. Wet marks. You can make sort of a snapdragon here. I'm rolling a little extra ink or paint into the wet area that I created. Where it's wet, it spreads out. I can go back later and add some finer detail when it dries just a little bit. I'm going to add a little bit of grass in the distance. So I get a nice little garden scene. Ooh, that's darker than I really wanted. I'm going to get a little extra water in there so it comes out lighter. That's a little lighter than I had thought, so it's okay. I kind of like having different values, some light, some dark, just a little bit of short grass in there. Having some lighter and some darker helps create more sense of space. Back over here, meanwhile, I'm going to use just the tip. I want to make sure the tip is nice and pointy. If it's not, I can even use my fingers to sort of smooth it out. Notice a lot of my lines aren't fully connecting. I let my imagination just fill in the in-between part sometime. Like on this stem, I don't have to have all the pieces connect. My imagination will fill them in at a certain point more effectively. And there's a few things. that you can try out. Again, playing around with what the brush mark can do, practicing, and using the marks themselves as shapes will give you a very distinctive painting quality. It's a different way of painting than we're used to. It's not just filling in big shapes with whatever color we want them to be. It's actually making the shape out of the brush mark itself. Enjoy! Talk to you soon.